I've been wanting to do this video for a long time, and honestly it's been a little difficult because I really was not sure exactly which would be the best techniques to share with everybody, but I'll just put a little disclaimer here. It's best to remember as you're listening to me talk, the process of learning and gaining control over paranormal ability is an incredibly individual process. Each mind is different and will respond to different techniques. I'm sharing the techniques that I know best, so it's probably best to pick things to use that stand out more to you as an individual. This is something you can also discuss in the average sensitive forums, and I might even share some of your ideas in future video blogs and posts on the blog. Before I get started, I do not recommend merely ignoring your gifts. This is something that could make things far more difficult or worse for you down the road. Often, ignoring your abilities or attempting to force them away leads to increased activity around you, headaches or migraines, inability to concentrate fully, and other problems which can be physical, mental, or emotional. If you identify your abilities as psychiatric disorders when they are in fact not psychiatric disorders, the medications prescribed to you can make you sick in all kinds of ways or cause other problems to your brain and your perspective. The absolute best way to deal with your abilities is by learning control, and especially learning never to fear them. They are a part of you, and you cannot fear yourself. In the beginning, you must identify your ability or abilities. It would be a good idea also to speak to a progressive psychiatrist prior to making any sort of decision on what you think your abilities may be, and then do some good research before naming them with any certainty. There are abilities that are incredibly similar or have root traits but are not quite the same, and so are classified differently. What's important to remember is that not only is each individual person different when it comes to training themselves in control, but each ability is different, and the combination of this and the individual learning processes can make the process of learning control difficult to gauge. There are no set levels to learning control, and everyone should assume their own pace. Don't overload yourself. Take it one step at a time and make sure that you are completely comfortable with having your abilities before you decide to learn to control them. The first tip I have for you while starting out is rather simple. Research. If you've noticed you've been able to see, hear, feel, or sense strange things or things that shouldn't be there, and you've recognized the signs that separate this from psychiatric disorder, or have been professionally cleared of such, then it is time to do some serious reading, research, and outreach. Do searches online, find forums, send emails to various paranormal teams, go to the library, read lots of books on the subject. Often enough, while you do this, you'll find material that you can actually relate with on a higher level than you probably originally thought you might. When I was originally researching sensitivity and empathy and all of the rest, I found certain material that literally resounded within me. These were words that described me to the last detail, and while most descriptions won't always fully describe a single individual in such a way, there will be pieces that stand out more than others. Sensitives and empaths, for example, especially while they have the strange and strong combination of the two abilities, sensitive empaths or SEs, tend to be extremely sensitive to electromagnetic fields, EMF, and migraines, and they tend to be uncomfortable in very large crowds due to spirit energy attached to living energy and emotional energy. As it turns out, there's lots more to learn about the world than we think, and we learn the most about the world while we learn about ourselves and our abilities. The second tip while starting out is a bit less simple. Know thyself. This is going to be a lot harder because it does involve facing your fears in every sense of the word. You've got to know when you're imagining things and when you're actually seeing things. You've got to be able to tell the difference. Being able to tell the difference only comes from a long time of knowing yourself and knowing exactly, down to the minute details, what it feels like when you're genuinely having paranormal experiences. Your exact feelings, your heartbeat, your mindset, what you're thinking, what the atmosphere around you is like, what you're seeing, what you're sensing, what you're hearing. It's all important and relevant and necessary to building up your confidence and learning where exactly you want to be when it comes to your abilities. You must be sure, too, because there's really no suppressing your abilities, and once you've learned control and know how to handle them when you don't want to use it, there will always be situations where you cannot help but use your abilities. You feel it in your soul that it must be done, that certain spirits must be helped, or certain individuals living who are harassed or haunted by spirits. Fear may be your biggest enemy and that of others, but fear must be conquered in order to help yourself. The third and final tip while starting out is to figure out exactly how your abilities affect you and your everyday life, even those around you. Making peace with it and helping your friends and family make peace or make sense of it can be a drastic change in how things go as time goes along, while you're learning control and throughout your life. How open-minded are you, your family, your friends? Do you have people you can talk to about it without being judged or called crazy? Have you tried talking to them? Remember that everyone has a different opinion or outlook on the paranormal, especially regarding paranormal abilities, psychic powers, etc. It's best to be mindful of this because you'll always garner a different reaction from different people. But once you find a group of people who are more supportive or interested, perhaps you will even find a small group of people who are like you, with abilities or having paranormal experiences. Being alone on this journey is not a good idea. Now, here are some very basic coping practices that you can use in order to build up your ability to control your sensitivity. I must mention again that everyone has a different way of coping and practicing techniques for control. Paranormal abilities affect everyone differently, so if certain pieces of this post don't feel right to you, you're obviously not obligated to take the advice. Weigh it all carefully before you try it. If you try it and it doesn't work, don't worry about it. Either you just need to practice more or it's just not right for you, but don't give up and don't let it overwhelm or discourage you. First, center your fear. This one takes some time to properly master. Whenever you have an episode, gather your wits and center yourself and breathe. Conquering your fear isn't easy, but it's far easier to handle if you stay calm, which in turn takes a lot of practice. Talk it out. When you see a spirit or hear something odd, talk it out loud. It might sound bizarre, but carry around a recorder and just talk. Even if it doesn't happen at first, you will likely get some sort of response audible only on your recorder. Either that, or there will be some sort of signal that tells you that the spirits are trying to respond or contact you in some way. I did this, and even though people thought I was rather insane, it seemed to work. Sometimes it can give you the reassurance that you really do have an ability because there are responses on tape. Granted, it may not always work that way, but it's always worth a try. Tell someone. This one may be a bit difficult or extremely difficult at first, but it isn't a good idea to keep this type of thing bottled up. Find someone that you trust and put aside specific time to talk about the activity around you and your blossoming talents. Be frank. Just let it all come out. Chances are someone close to you has also had an encounter with the other side of some sort. And chances are they won't judge you negatively. They may attempt to rationalize it, but they won't shun you. It might even be a good idea, and this is based on an individuality, to gather a small group of friends you trust together to tell them and talk to them about it. Having a support group, however large, is always a good idea. If you don't feel you have anyone you can trust with this, refer to the next tip. Reach out to a team or organization. It is always a good idea to find other people who have experience with paranormal activity and abilities. Search online for local teams and find one that can help you, even with plain old resources. Most teams are made up of relatively sensitive people, even if they are rational and skeptical by approach. Most teams also have one or two highly sensitive people who will have some major experience with abilities and can help you more than the average team member could. Some teams even have a mentoring option available. It would be a good idea to take advantage of that option if it's available. It's always easier and better to work with a localized team, though some teams have resources outside of your usual area that could be rather useful. If you are a teenager, be aware that most teams will not work with people under 18 years of age for legal reasons. If you find a team who won't adhere to that, walk away. That's not a responsible group of people. Usually it's a good idea to start with emails, then talk on the phone. I've even seen people use Skype for this purpose. Fifth and last, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions everywhere you can. From actual conversations by email or phone to discussions over a forum, there is never a wrong way to try and find the answers you need. All of the questions rolling around in your head should be asked. Now, these are centering techniques I've learned from many different places. Books, websites, friends, etc. And yes, they all come from New Age faiths or paganism of some sort. Most of them are considerably neutral, but some have worked wonders for me, while others have been tested and true by people I trust. You should remember that if some of these don't appeal to you, you're not obligated to use them. This is, after all, strictly an advice post. Therefore, you can pick and choose what you want to try. Also, try to be objective here. Some of these techniques seem rather far out or downright crazy, but you never know exactly what will work for you unless you give them the old college try. The first of them is rather basic: breathing and focus. Essentially, it's a meditation technique. Go somewhere quiet, absolutely no noise, and somewhere in nature if you can, like a park under a tree. This is a transitional technique. It has two poses. First, sit up straight, cross-legged, and center yourself with posture. Close your eyes and focus on silence. Take 10 to 20 deep breaths and count the beats in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do this a few times to get yourself in the zone. Then gently lay yourself flat on the ground on your back and make sure you can see the sky for this one. Do the same breathing exercises while staring up at the sky, or with your eyes closed if you wish. This teaches balance and control. Do it enough and you can use it in ordinary situations to control fear or panic, to focus on your surroundings, whether they be physical or spiritual or perhaps even terrifying. These basics can be applied to any kind of meditation, a few of which I'll be mentioning shortly. Meditate with stones. This is something I really like doing, mainly because I have a huge fascination with stones. Tumbled, rough, you name it. I love all their names and the way they feel in my hands. I have a very large collection from which to select the stones I wish to meditate with, and I do it on a daily basis, usually once in the morning and once in the evening before bed. You can buy stones at a local metaphysical shop or from online stores, from Etsy or even magicalomaha.com, which is the website of my favorite shop here in my town. It's a simple graduating exercise. First, place a stone in each palm and focus on them while you breathe meditatively. Focus on their shape, feel, size, etc. After this, you can try focusing on your inner silence while rubbing the stones. With these exercises, you can either focus in total silence or put on some meditative music. Then there is musical meditation. This one is simple. Lay back and put on your headphones. Listen to meditative music and just let your mind do what it wants to. You can focus on clearing your head, giving your mind a blank slate from all the stress and worries of the week, or you can focus on something specific you need to think about. I use this meditation when I'm trying to write and words won't come. It's actually a great writer's blockbuster. There's also chakra alignment meditation. This is one you can do several different ways. You can also find videos on YouTube to work with this. I have seen chakra alignments done with stone correspondence as well as many other techniques. Since the alignment includes your third inner eye, it can help you balance your abilities and see with better and easier clarity. Last but not least, candle meditation. Focusing on a single small flame can really help you think clearly. Simply light a candle, turn off all the lights, put on some light music or just try for silence, and focus on the candle's flame. Watch how it moves, how it dances, and how the flame's colors change. This can be done as part of the other meditations too. Some people like to work through chanting exercises. breathing exercises, or even counting backward to a blank slate frame of mind. It's all up to you. These are techniques that really don't fit into any other category. Some are going to seem extremely ordinary, and indeed that's the point. Normalizing your talents is important, especially if you want to be able to control them, use them, and still live like an ordinary person most of the time. These are things you can fit into your daily life and have part of a normal routine if you choose. Workout. Okay, this sounds hilariously mundane, but it really does work. Working out can help straighten out a lot of things in your life, including your abilities. Make it into a routine. A good straight stretch, a few weights, and a good run on the treadmill can do you a lot more good than you imagine. It also helps you think. Right. Writing can do a lot of things for you. Besides exercising your brain, it gives you a chance to put reflections on your abilities in writing so that you can go over them later. You can document your progress while working through control exercises, work through your fears and worries, and give yourself a chance to better understand yourself from what you put down in writing. This is partially the reason that I keep my blog, because it really does help. Read before bed. Okay, this one is also hilariously mundane, and it may not be a part of your usual pre-bedtime routine to read before you shut the lights off. But I've noticed that on the nights I don't do this, my mind races, and therefore so do my abilities. Reading is a very calming exercise, especially at the very end of the day. It helps relax your brain after a long day of activity, and while you read, you're giving your brain a chance to focus on a fictional story or situation that can even out your mind and help you fall asleep without any problems at all. It can also help when you're trying to do the next technique, which is even out your sleep cycle. This is really, really important for daily function, as well as helping yourself regulate and normalize your abilities. It can give you a chance to recharge so that your empathy won't totally wear you out during the day, or so that you're not vulnerable to your sensitivity as much as you would be while you're sleep deprived. Overall, making sure you get to bed and wake up in a specific routine can change your life for the better. Never underestimate the power of a good deep sleep, and of course, a cup of coffee upon waking. Favorite activities. You can use your favorite daily activities to help you focus on the here and now. My usual daily activities include writing, reading, playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my 3DS, rock meditations, and watching Netflix and YouTube, and doing all of this plus my usual obligations or schedules helps regulate my time. Regulating your time can be extremely helpful because it does allow you to be objective in the way you see your day. You don't really see yourself randomly talking to a spirit while doing your ironing or vacuuming, do you? Your mind gets too busy to pick up the subtle hints of paranormal activity, and it gets easier to help yourself focus outside of your abilities. Everyone has their own ways of coping with the ordinary as well as the not so ordinary, and usually you'll be able to find your own swing of things, and on the way you will find a balance to help you control your abilities. Often, however, you may find that it's rather impossible to ignore the call of a needy spirit, and so you should remember that helping the spirits also helps you achieve balance. By answering the calls of spirits who need help crossing over, who need messages delivered, or just have a last word to say, you can not only put yourself at ease, but the spirits around you as well. By achieving any kind of balance, you will find it a lot less noisy in your mind, and you'll find that the need to pay attention to every object being moved, every whisper, every rustling, is not so urgent. I've said before that attempting to ignore and suppress your abilities will not work, mainly because a spirit will often be able to see or sense you no matter what your intentions with the paranormal activity are. The best way to help yourself is to work through it without suppressing it, for the only through control can someone with a paranormal ability be able to live normally while still acknowledging their amazing talents.